Welcome to Unseth's Pottery. I'm going to take you along a journey in a day of a potter in the studio. And so the first thing we did today was a kiln opening. We do live kiln openings on Facebook. So I will show you a few things that came out of this kiln load. I did a great big glacier bowl. This is 3 coats of honey flex. And then I actually just pour Arctic Blue, Tourmaline, and Storm, and then just rock it back and forth until I get a nice blended look. And I did a big utensil holder in Fog, which is also 3 coats of honey flex. My Ravenscraig white studio glaze in the inside, and then I just did iron luster in a wavy pattern around the middle 2 times. I also did 4 soup bowls in that as well, and a great big serving bowl in the Fog. This has honey flex on the inside, and the bowls do as well. All right, I also did some mosquito coil bowls. This is what you can buy. You can buy them in different brands, usually in Canada. Well, there's several different brands in Canada as well, but and I don't even know what brand this is, but Off has mosquito coils. So this is basically just a metal bar that my husband cut and then spray painted black. And the mosquito coil hangs on the bar, and as it burns like incense, the ashes just drop inside of the bowl. So basically it just is a holder that's pretty and can sit in your area and look pretty. And it also collects your ashes. And it seems like this has the smoke go up better too. I don't know, probably would go up the same the other way. But I did have lots of customers say that they would use the little metal stands that come with the mosquito coils, and they would fall over and then burn their chairs. So that's what this is for. And I also make them with a hole in the center so that if it rains, it's not just filling up with water. So I did a couple in the mint chip. This was a cone 6 firing, so a little bit hotter than what I sometimes do. So I did them in Northern Lights. These turned out spectacular. Oh, I forgot to say, so mint chip is winterwood poured on the bottom, 1 coat of honey flex, light flex in the middle, and then I dip it in the spearmint, and then Jen's juicy fruit just on the rim, which is probably why you get the blues. It's from the Jen's juicy fruit. And the Northern Lights is 3 coats of obsidian and 3 coats of seaweed, just kind of random. I did 2 of those. I also did a big bowl in the Northern Lights, but I need to refire it. It looks pretty, but it got these little blisters, so it just isn't happy. Yeah, right in there, you can barely feel them. Just not happy with the cone 6 firing. So I am going to reglaze and do a 5.5 glaze firing. So I tried, I think this was Alon's transfers, the pink, and this is rose quartz poured and dipped, and then I just did a clear over it. I have to say, I haven't found any glaze that looks good with this pink, so it's frustrating. The only transfers I have found that I like are the blue and the black, but we'll see. Anyways, I carved "She is strong" on there, which is a scripture, Proverbs 31:25. Thought for Mother's Day, but yeah, not very happy with that. Oh, I guess I'll still leave it. Somebody might love it. And a mosquito coil in the Starry Night. I did 2 of them. This is my studio. Oh no, I did. Okay. I usually do studio black on the inside, but it's really low. So I just did obsidian on the outside and inside 3 times. And then I poured the blue hydrangea over that. And I guess that's all I did in that. Oh, I had somebody want just a plain copper mug. So this is just Bailey's Red too, dipped twice. And I did some Purple Rain mosquito coil bowls. This is dipped mulberry. Hand painted 3 coats of Smoky Merlot and then 2 coats of Indigo Float painted over that. And I did mulberry on the inside. I guess did I? Yeah, I did. So when I dipped it, yes, because there's a hole in the bottom, yeah. And then I poured it around on the inside. So I did 2 of those. And I did a vase. That turned out good. And some wine cups. All right, another mosquito coil bowl in the pretty in pink. This is rose quartz, honey flex, light flex, 1 coat of each, and winterwood. What else did I do? I did some mint chip. This is our noodle bowl, salad bowl, everything bowl. Yeah, oh, look at that dripping in there. So pretty. So this is mint chip, same as what I already explained. Winterwood, honey flex, light flex, spearmint, and then Jen's juicy fruit. And I just kind of lightly painted 1 coat on the rim of that. And here's some dessert bowls that I did in that as well. And this was an experiment, which I love. So I'm gonna change a couple things, but I did my Ravenscraig white on the inside, 2 coats of honey flex. The handle came off, so when I have handles pop off, I like to experiment with them. 2 coats of honey flex and 1 coat of river birch, I think is what it's called. And then I hand painted copper float. This is my first time using copper float, and it seriously looks just like ancient copper did. So that's nice. And ancient copper's back, did you hear? Ah. Anyways, after all this time trying to figure out alternatives, they bring it back. Anyways, so the bottom is dipped in spearmint. I want the next practice I do, I'm gonna put some Jen's juicy fruit just to give the green a bit more. Actually, you know, I really like it, but I'm still gonna try that and see how it turns out. But I'm actually quite happy with how that looks now. And this was a fail. I really don't like this at all. And it ran an incredible amount. This was amber quartz, and then I painted 1 coat of winterwood over top. Yeah, not liking how that turned out. This is the Morning Glory glaze, which is spearmint dipped, 1 coat of, no, and then I dipped the Pike's Purple, and then in the area where there is a gap, I painted honey flex and then light flex. All right, I think that is everything. Now we'll be on to doing something else. All right, next I think we're gonna fill the bisque kiln. There's so many things I could be doing in the pottery studio this morning. I could glaze and get the glaze kiln filled. We have lots of stuff to glaze. I could make stuff, but I think I'm gonna get the bisque kiln filled and get that going this morning. This is normally a job that Todd does, and I miss him. I need him back. So normally Todd would get everything ready for the bisque kiln, and it saves my shoulders so much. But I will do it, and I will show you how I do it. So silica is a very dangerous thing to have in the studio. So we're really terrible at keeping things clean. So we try to not make as much dust as what we could. There are certain things you do have to sand, like you do have to sand to level out pieces, which we do right on the table. Here you can't see, but I have one of those adhesive diamond core sanding pads stuck to the table, and we just level everything off with that. But when you use a sponge, it works just about as good. We just kind of go back and forth until the rough areas are gone. Todd is a lot more careful than I am, but it also takes him longer, so I'm not as patient. He just kind of sits and enjoys the process, where I'm just like, gotta get it done, so, and go as quick as I can, which is probably why my shoulder gets really sore. All right, this is the bowl that came out of the last, that I just showed you, came out of the last kiln firing. And it's all blistered. I don't know if you can see that, but like all over the place. So hopefully, a lot of times, if you just add a bit more glaze and refire it, it works. So I'm gonna give that a try. I don't know if you need to do this, but I always just grind it a little bit with my diamond core bit. So. All right, you can see where I just scuffed it up basically and leveled it out. And I'm just gonna add a coat of obsidian to the whole thing. Once this Okay, while that dries, I am going to glaze a new combination that I'm experimenting with. So I have a mug, which is what I like to use, the mugs that handles pop off or something goes wrong. So I'm going to dip the bottom third of it in seaweed. You can find the glaze recipe for seaweed just online. Not seaweed. Spearmint. Spearmint. All right. 2, 3. Some glazes I don't bother putting wax on the bottom. This is one of them. I mix it up so it's fairly inexpensive, so I don't mind the little bit of waste you get. And it wipes up so easy because there's no red iron oxide in it. And then I'm going to add some Jen's Juicy Fruit. You can also find the recipe for this online. Glazing is a really good site to find recipes on. And then if you set up an account, you can just store the recipes right on there. All right, so I don't want a lot of this. So I'm just going to paint it on right where right at the edge of the green. I'm trying to get as close as I can. All right. And then I am going to do a liner glaze with my white, Ravens Craig white. I like to use a liner glaze that I mix up just to cut down on the costs of the glazes. Glazes can be quite expensive, and if you can reduce the cost by a liner glaze, then why not? If you're wondering what I'm mixing my glazes up with, just a toilet brush. Does a great job. Okay, next we're going to do 3 coats of copper float. Just right up to the spearmint. I'm going to do a bit bigger band than I did the last time. I want a bit more copper. I find this glaze dries really fast. Probably because it's so runny. So 3 coats of that. I decided to do a bowl in this glaze as well because why not? I always do this. Oh, that's why I have test cups, so that I don't do this, but oh well, here I am. I didn't have patience to wait for the copper to dry, so I thought, oh, why not do a bowl? Because that makes sense. Hopefully it turns out and I haven't wasted a bowl. Because I don't like waiting for things to dry, I am just putting on 1 coat of Honey Flux while that copper glaze is still wet. Try not to touch. The last coat I will just overlap a little bit. So 2 coats of Honey Flux. I just do all 3 coats of Honey Flux in the middle. I do use my Ravens Craig white on some of my bowls, but if I'm doing Honey Flux, I usually just do the whole inside Honey Flux. It's such a pretty, lovely white. And my Ravens Craig white is more on the cream side, not white. While I have the Honey Flux out, I'm going to do some mint chip. So what I do with the mint chip is I do 1 coat of Honey Flux. And I like to go in and around the handle because sometimes the spearmint glaze does a little bubbling around the handle. And then I also like to just do a little bit in the crease. It's not necessary, but that is where you sometimes have glaze not quite fill in the area, so that just kind of ensures that it will. So yeah, that's all I do with the Honey Flux. And then after this, I'll go in with 1 coat of light flux. So I probably won't show that. The 1 coat of Honey Flux and then 1 coat of light flux just over top of the Honey Flux. And lastly, you're gonna put a coat of river birch on. So it just gives a little bit of speckles, but not too much. Honey Flux is the main glaze color in river birch. So and then that's it. So hopefully they turn out. After the Honey Flux is dried, I do 1 coat of Light Flux. Little hint, I put other colors on my lid because Light Flux, I use it a lot with winter wood, and then it gets all those little flecks in it. So I usually have 2 containers on the go, and 1 I use when there's no winter wood. So I'll just do all of those just like that. Just cover the Honey Flux. All right, so now that the Honey Flux and Light Flux has dried, I am going to do the spearmint glaze. Just want to make sure that the glaze covers the Honey Flux, Light Flux all the way around. All right, once the spearmint is dry, I just pour on some winter wood. I hate hand painting, so if I can pour a glaze on and it works, that's what I will do. Plus it's easier to make sure you get it in the wavy pattern if you can pour it. And then where did it go? I just usually have a measuring cup for my winter wood to wash the bottoms, and then I just rinse it in there, and when it's dirty I just dump it in the glaze, and then I'm not wasting any of it. Part of this glaze combination is dipping it in the juicy fruit. So even though there's a lot of parts to this glaze combination, it doesn't take very long because it's a lot of pouring and dipping. There. And that is it for the mint chip. I was going through my photos yesterday and seen an old photo from a few years ago of a glaze combination I used to do. I think I called it Rustic Charm. I'm not even sure what the name was, but it was gorgeous in the picture. So I thought, why don't I do that anymore? So I'm gonna do it, and not even completely sure if I remember how to do it. I think so. So it is 3 coats of ancient jasper, just painted everywhere. I'm going to do, you could just put a liner glaze on the inside, Oh yeah, yes. I used to put the copper glaze on the inside, so I'm gonna do that. It's a nice contrast between the two. While I'm waiting for that one to dry, I'm going to do some watermelon, maritime, and citrus splash mugs and a few tumblers. So on all those combinations, the bottom is spearmint. So all I do is kind of go not quite halfway up. One thing you have to make sure is you don't get bubbles right in that handle joint. So I'll just take a putty knife and cut the bubble, because with this glaze, if you have a bubble, you are going to see it afterwards. And then I just wipe off the glaze. Kind of like it when the glaze goes in our name. So yeah, that's all I do for each of the bottoms except for the citrus splash. For the maritime glaze, I use Norse Blue by Mayco. My glaze is a bit runny, and I meant to take some water off the top before I did this, and I completely forgot. So I'll just hold it in a bit longer maybe. All right. It's gonna spill. All right, so you just want to dip and leave a space of white, unglazed clay. Normally I would just leave it in for 3 seconds, but it is quite runny, so there. I just left a bit of unglazed clay. That's gonna have the Honey Flux Light Flux on it. For the watermelon glaze, I use raspberry mist. If you get glaze on the green, you do have to get it off, or it will show up. Sometimes I just use my fingernail, or I use a metal rib, something that'll just take the one glaze off and not the green glaze. So you do the same for the raspberry. You leave a section that's unglazed. Okay, I do citrus splash the opposite. This is lemon meringue, and I dip the bottom in the color. All the other ones had spearmint on the bottom, but because lemon meringue is a matte glaze, I don't want it on the inside. I mean, it's fine, but I prefer it on the bottom of the piece. I love the color of lemon meringue, but it has given me a few problems. Thickness is a big issue with it. You gotta make sure you have the right thickness. Now each of these is going to get a treatment of Honey Flux and Light Flux. This one is still wet, but I'm just going to be doing the unglazed part. And citrus splash, you just want to get it on the unglazed part, not on the lemon meringue. So it doesn't have to be completely precise. I do a little bit of overlap. Watermelon, same thing. So the reason why I do honey flux underneath, I was having pinhole problems where the LiQWYD was. And once you put the honey flux underneath, I wasn't having that problem anymore. So for whatever reason, it solved that issue. So yay, because that was driving me crazy, because not every glaze likes to be refired. And who wants to be refiring a bunch of pieces anyways? Alright, I will finish this and come back. Now I'm going to do light flex. The Maritime, oh, it's still kind of wet. Just a sec. This one is a little drier. The Maritime, I go over the Norse blue a little bit. I will show you. So overall, the honey flux, this does, the spearmint is fine having honey flux and light flux over top of it. So I just do a little bit of the Norse blue, just go up a tiny bit. I want it to look like the land and clouds and the sky. And then for the citrus splash, I just go up on the green a little bit. I don't go on the lemon meringue. So just up a little bit on the spearmint. And that's done. And then for watermelon, you just do the whole thing. Not the green, just all of your raspberry mist. Go over top with one coat of light flux. And go over top of your honey flux. And again, it doesn't matter if you get over top of the spearmint a little bit. And then that one is done. So I will just go and finish all of those. Back to the mug that had the ancient jasper on it, I am just going to pour some Bailey's Red 2 to line the inside of the mug. This glaze likes to be thick. You probably noticed that I left it in the mug longer than I did the other ones, so that's why. Now we're going to add oatmeal. So this is where I'm not sure if I remember properly. I do know it likes it to be thick. Oatmeal is a very thick glaze anyways. So I think I did something like this. If not, it'll be hopefully fine. So just glob it on there, like as much as you can. So I will probably go in and add a little bit more once it dries. Well, maybe not. That might be all I do. Back to the big Northern Lights bowl that I was refiring. It takes forever for glaze to dry when you are doing a refiring, so you can see the obsidian's still a little bit wet, but that is okay. I'm just gonna go in and add a bit more seaweed. I'm only gonna do one coat because there's lots of seaweed underneath this one coat of obsidian. I find it when you refire the Northern Lights, it really mutes the colors, so you have to add more glaze. Actually, I might do 2 coats now that I think about it. Sometimes if I have an, oops, I just made a mess. Sometimes if I have an old jar, I'll just take a little bit of the thicker glaze around the inside and put that on the edge, and that works good. But this is a brand new jar, so. There's a little bit of a hard area on there. I wanted to make sure it wasn't something that needed to be ground off, but it was just a chunk of glaze. One thing I always find hard is figuring out what to glaze. What? And especially when the studio is full, it is even harder to figure out what to be glazing. So I'm gonna do these candles, Northern Lights, and 2 of them in electric blue. So normally electric blue, I do a matte glaze on the bottom, but because there's texture on these and I want it to show up, and matte really hides texture, I'm gonna just do obsidian all the way over everything, inside, outside. When we got our Scott 1027, we were debating getting an oval kiln. I'm so glad we didn't. I can't even imagine how long that would take to fill. It always seems like forever to glaze enough stuff to fill the kiln, especially seeing how I want to have enough stuff for it to run tonight. And I don't want to work late. So I'm going to glaze 3 coats on everything, and then I'll come back. So for the Northern Lights, I do 3 coats of seaweed and just kind of run it around like so, and then the next coat will be slightly different. That gives it the varied look like Northern Lights. And I have some salt cellars that I'm also going to do in Northern Lights. And then for the electric blue, I use Indigo Float. That is just going to go on the top third. Kind of random, or not random, scalloped. And then I like to just go inside a little bit as well. The last step of the electric blue is to add amaco snow. Mine is really, really thick, so I will probably just do 1 coat. So this I just glob on the top. As you can see, my paintbrush is just loaded, and I am putting it on there really, really, really thick. And that's it. So I did 3 complete coats of the indigo float, and then I did an extra one just along the edge because I like it to be really, really vibrant. One of my favorite cups that I use every single day is a cheetah cup. I don't do this glaze very often. I don't know why, because I love it. But I do one coat of amber quartz, and then I do a coat of macadamia, and then another coat of amber quartz. I don't know if I'll show the whole process, but I will definitely show you the end. So because I want it to look like animal print, I want the different variations in thickness. So I want it to look a little patchy. So I don't, when I put it on, I don't thin it out. I will just let it be a little patchy, if that makes sense. I actually don't usually, I grab two brushes, but I think I usually just use the same brush for both glazes, just to make it even more random. So now I'm going to do a coat of macadamia with my dirty brush. And yeah, I'm not really very worried about even coverage. So just a really quick coat. Line it with a red glaze. So I'm just cleaning up the rim so that it's red and not brown. I'm going to use, what is this called? It is mayco's. Gosh, I didn't put a name on it. I think it's cinnamon. And then I'll just wipe that little bit of extra back. Now for the part that makes it a cheetah. So I'm going to take my brush and get amber quartz, macadamia. So I'm just gonna sporadically do both glazes all over. Macadamia, amber quartz. Macadamia. No, this is macadamia. And that's amber quartz, macadamia. All right, and then I just took a handful of the crystals from the bottom of my sandstone bucket, and I am just gonna place them like a cheetah print all around the mug. You see what I'm doing? I'm just putting them in the wet glaze. So because the glaze is still wet, they stick. So that's partly why I put the glaze on so thick, so it wouldn't dry very quickly. So I probably have a couple crystals of the bigger crystals in each little spot. And that is it. Lastly, I'm going to do a few spoon rests. One in my fog glaze. So I did 3 coats of honey flex, and now I'm going to take iron luster, and I'm just going to do a little design. Just like that, and then I will go over and do that one more time. So it's a little different each time. And then I'm going to do glacier. So same 3 coats of honey flex, and then I'm going to pour Arctic blue. Or tourmaline and storm, all by amaco. And then I did get a bit much, so I'm gonna let a bit drop into my bucket. I've tried to save it before and it just does not look the same. It just gets too blended. I'm just trying to cover a little bare area. So I just blow on it to move it around a bit, make it a bit more interesting. So that's looking about right there. And also each one is different. All right, I don't think I glazed quite enough to fill this kiln, but I'm still gonna fill it because I'm exhausted and cannot glaze another thing. So join me while I fill it. I am going to start this tonight when the bisque kiln is done. I can't fire both kilns at the same time. So as soon as it's done at 9:30, I will come down here and start the glaze fire. That was a life and a day of a potter. I could glaze 4 more mugs and put them in here. I don't know, maybe after I eat supper I'll have more energy and I'll come back down and do that, but for right now this is it. So my favorite part of pottery is being on the wheel, but as you can see there's a lot of work, and this wasn't even half of the different processes that you have to do, but the wheel's my favorite, and it's like maybe 1/4 of all the things that you need to do in a day, a week. So yeah, thanks. If you watch till the end, you're amazing.